Hi everyone, I'm Chad. Welcome to Maker's Bench. I had a request from one of the channel subscribers to do a video about taking a 3D model, designing it through Fusion or a CAD program, and then taking that model that gets designed. How do you slice it? How do you get it onto the printer? How do you do it? What's the process for that? So, what I'm going to do in this video is we're gonna design a model. We're gonna take it out of Fusion and we're gonna bring it into slicing software, and then we're going to get it on the printer and print it. So I thought it was a great idea for a video. I think we have that covered in Chloe's heart-shaped spinner, but that's kind of buried in there. So it's good to have a video just showing this little process. So, okay, we're going to get started. Let's jump into the CAD.
Okay, so I decided to design a tractor. I just kind of started modeling something, and the tractor started taking shape. I've had the idea of drawing up a little tractor, modeling up a little tractor for a while. There's some things that I wanted to do with just trying out some bridging stuff. I haven't done a lot with, as I'm learning to print, one of the things that I don't know a lot about yet is bridging and how far can you bridge, what can print, what can't print. So this was a good example for me to play around with. So when it starts printing, the wheels start printing from the bottom up, and it's going to bridge across the axles, and that was kind of the intent here, was to create a model that would bridge across both axles. So the front axle bridges first, it goes up a little higher, the rear axle bridges second, and then when it gets to a certain point it bridges lengthwise across and it makes the body of the tractor. So I was pushing it a little bit with some of the bridging, and I thought I was pushing it with the bridging and wanted to try to see how that went. So this was just really just a little thing that I just thought it was something I wanted to model anyway, so I used this opportunity as a chance to model it. So let's take a look at what we have to do to get it saved out as an STL file so we can slice it. Okay, here we are. This is our finished tractor. Cute little guy. It is very small. It's not a very big tractor at all, but it is what it is. Just a little test print here. So the first thing we need to do, once we've gotten our part is modeled and we want to get this exported as an STL file. So we're in Fusion 360, and to export that as a STL file, one of the things, and I'm going to show it down here in the timeline, I'm going to back up to right here. So a lot of people, when they start doing Fusion, I watch a lot of tutorials that other people are doing, and they make a component right away. They make a component first, and then start modeling and make it that component. I don't do it that way. I tend to model my stuff first, and I make a component afterwards. And the reason I do that is simply, if I have tool bodies and I have parts that I want to use as, to carve things away or to whatever, there's going to be solid bodies in there that are used as tools rather than the actual part. So I can, use those parts in here, and then when I'm all done, all I have to do is take the body that I have finished. There might be other bodies down in here, but I only have to include the body of the part that I'm actually making. So that's why I do it this way. Once I right click on the body, I can come down here to create components from body. And once you click that, I'm going to hit this button right here, the timeline. Once you do that, it takes the body and makes the component of the tractor. So then if you click down here and you look at the body, you'll see that we now have a body there. It's just moved down into this component. But you do have to have a component in order to export the STL file. So we're going to export the STL file. So I'm going to right click on the tractor, and I'm just going to go down to Save as STL. You can click on Export, I believe, and you can click on, oh, I guess you can't. That's just if you want to export it as a different type of CAD file. And I just learned something as well. So you right click on it and you save as STL. So when you save it as STL, the first thing it's going to do is, it takes a second, it's going to compute the triangles, and I'm on the refinement of high. So it takes a little bit longer because I've got a lot of triangles in here. I always like to have I like to make my triangles as small as possible. It's just the way I like to have it. I like to make sure all the details in there, especially on a small part like this. As you can see, it made all the triangles. Everything's been converted, and my box disappeared, because when I start messing around with it, the box disappears. I'm just going to pop my screen back up, and you'll see that our save as STL is there. You've got different formats, and I am previewing the mesh. That's what we're looking at. It tells me the number of triangles. I've got 104,336 triangles. If I go to the medium refinement, you're going to see the difference here. It'll take a second, but it should see it pops in there, and now it went down to 40,838 triangles, which is quite a few less. Low is in here as well, and if we go down to low, it's down to 16,000. So it's and to be honest, this would probably print just as well, but I don't know. Computer space, I guess there's lots of it. I don't. It takes a little bit longer, but I mean, as far as the making the model part of it, takes a little bit longer, and I don't think it really adds a whole lot to the total process time. So once the high comes back in here, all right, and then output, send to 3D print utility. I haven't messed with that yet, but anyway, I'm gonna hit OK, and it's gonna bring up a dialog box and ask us where we want to save that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and go to my desktop. If I can find my desktop. There it is. And once in the desktop, I'm just going to hit save the tractor STL. I save it, and that's it. So once we've saved the STL file from our CAD model, we then have to take that STL file. That's the stereolithography file. I'm not sure exactly the exact name on that, but we take that STL file, and we're going to bring it into our Prusa software. I'm using Prusa, the Prusa 3D Slicer software. Comes with my Prusa machine, and we then have this build plate. That's our build plate for the part. I'm now going to hit add. When I hit add, I can go to my desktop, and I can grab my tractor, and I can open it, and it plops it down on the build plate. As you can see, not very big. The one thing that you want to make sure, and I'm going to actually make a video on this later, is that when you do export your file, you want to make sure that you're in millimeters. You can draw in inches, but you want to be in millimeters. If you're in inches, it'll come in a lot smaller. Like I said, I'm going to make another video on that, because that's something became something I had an issue with at first. I didn't quite know what was going on, but I'll go through that in another video. So once our tractor's in here, we've got our standard settings. Everything pops up with default settings. And from over in the far right side, we can see that we have different options. You can go down to the 0.05 highly detailed settings, and then there's the 0.10 detail settings, and then this is the 0.15. And I've been printing at the 0.15 optimal for the most part on everything. I've tried to go down, and of course, and I have also printed it with some 2.0 normal, the 0.2 millimeter layer height. But this one I did with the 0.15 optimal, and I've got it set up for Prusa PLA. It's a different PLA, but it's PLA. So, and then the printer is the original Prusa i3 MK2 with Z-hop. There's the color print, and then there's the nozzle with Z-hop, but I'm just on the MK2 with Z-hop. So those are the basic settings. And now from here, you can really just slice it and whatever. I did slice it once in the first print I did. The front wheels did pop off, and I was worried about that a little bit, because if you look underneath here, you can't really see it too well. What I'll do is I'll slice it so that we can show that to you. So once all the settings, you've gotten your settings set, we haven't even messed with all the other settings, but that's just the default stuff. So I hit slice now. We get a little progress bar down here in the lower right hand corner, and our progress bar starts going. It's done. Now down in the lower left, there's a 2D view, and there's a preview, and then there's this layers view. So I just go to the preview view, and I can spin it around, and you can take this top bar, or the right bar, and you can start sliding down, and you can see all the layers that are going to print. if you take the bottom bar here on the left and you bring it up, it'll come up. I usually just leave that one alone though, and I just go from the top down. I go all the way down to the bottom. And like I was saying, there's not much surface area here on the print. So when the first time I printed this, these wheels got up, I don't know, to a certain height. I'd actually bridged across on the axle, and then these things popped off, and I started, of course, the print failed. So I came back, and so we go back to the 3D. So I went back, and this is one of the settings, and this is how you can change some of the settings. You go into print settings, and in printer settings, you get your layers and perimeters, and this is just your layer heights and your first layer, and you get how many perimeters. You can click to spiral. These are all the settings, and those are things that we'll learn over time, but for the most part, we're just going to leave all that be. The one thing that can really be helpful, though, when you don't have a lot of surface area, is printing a brim. And so what I did is I put a 3mm brim on here, and what that does is, and I'll show you on this, I'll slice it again, and we'll show what that does. So when I hit slice, we're going to go back to our preview, and it really didn't have to reslice the thing, it just put the brim on. So if we go to the preview, you're going to see that there's more plastic around the parts. So it prints a little bit of a pad on the print bed around the parts. They're connected. You have to peel them off of the part once it's all done, but they usually come off pretty easy. But what it does is it gives you more surface area on the bed so that the parts don't pop off. And once I did that, the part did print. So what we have here is, as you can see, the print starts coming up, and like I said, we get to that bottom axle and it pops in there. And I like to zoom in and really take a look and see that, okay, from that layer, we get to that first layer, that outside layer is going to come here, and it's going to come right across and back and around. You can see what the actual layers are going to do and how they're going to print. So that's really cool to see that. And then you come up and you get your next layer and your next layer, and you can see how this thing starts to print. And then we're going to come up some more. So the first axle went, we get a lot higher, and there it is. So right there we get our first bridging for the rear axle, and it's bridging a little bit of a distance, and that was one of the things I'm trying to see, is I'm trying to see how far I can bridge, and as this thing starts printing up, it's going to get to that point, and then it bridges across. And what's interesting about this is we've got a little bit of an angle here, and I didn't know how that was going to work out. And I know that I probably shouldn't have done it this way, but I really wanted to see what it would do and how it would react and how it would work out. So, I mean, this outside layer is there's nothing underneath it. It's just supposed to turn in midair and whatever and get reconnected back over here. So I wanted to see how that would turn out, and then as it goes up farther, the tractor comes up, and then we don't really have any more bridging problems there. We do have some overhangs right here where this steering wheel comes up. There's a pretty good overhang. This thing just starts printing out, and I wanted to see how that was going to go. There's some other areas too, like when you first print this rear axle, there's a pretty good bump out right there. Just wanted to take a look, and it's just little things like that. I just wanted to see how that stuff reacted. And as it comes up, there's the fenders start coming up here on the side. They're very thin. Didn't know how that was going to work out. Like I said, that overhang on the steering wheel, that worked out okay. As it comes up, we got the tractor seat, and then here's another issue with these fenders. I was trying to push this, and we kind of got these pieces way out here. I wanted to see how it would all print, just for learning how to do this stuff. And then the little smokestack comes up there at the top. So that's how it's going to print. And so now we've sliced the part. That's the part we've sliced, and that's the way that you can look at it to see how things are going to print. If you got to add, and with experience and time, we get to learn. And that's what I'm doing now, is I'm learning. Even the front wheels they're angled. So seeing how things all work together and how this thing goes will tell me a lot about, how I'm designing parts and what I can do and what I can't do. And that's really what I'm trying to learn right now, is what I can do, what I can't do. So once it's all sliced and you're happy with it, we can export the G-code. we export the G code, and we can put it onto a card. And tractor G code, I'm not going to save it because this isn't the right card, but that's all you do is you just save it to the card, and then you take the card out of the computer here, you walk it down to the printer, you stick it into the printer itself, and you use the settings there. I'm not going to get into all of that because we've talked about that in other videos, and it's pretty it's pretty easy. Once the card is in there, you preheat the PLA to the preheat PLA temperature. You go into the menu, you go down to print from card, and you find your file and just hit the button and it starts to print. So I do have a time lapse of the print, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at that time lapse. Enjoy.
Okay, so here it is. This is a little tractor I made. Now, of course, the first thing I did when I got the tractor off the printer was I dropped it onto a hard floor, and I broke the little smokestack off the top. But here, take a closer look.
So here it is. I think the print turned out really well. The model still needs a lot of tweaking. There's little bits and pieces to go, but it's a good start. I really do want to make this to be more of a test print that I can run and test filaments or test printer settings and stuff like that. You can see there's a little stringing in there. Some of that stuff is going on. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the tractor itself. The print, it did print well. The fenders are pretty detailed. There you can see the bridging on the bottom. I had some problems with that first layer like I thought I would. Actually, it went okay. The fenders you can see around the corners, there's a little bit of problems there because of those overhangs, but that's what I'm trying to, sorry about the focus, but I'm trying to see how that stuff affects the print, and I think that this print is telling me quite a bit already. So it's nice to learn stuff. I think the wheels turned out well. All the fillets and the rounds I put in there worked out pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with the print, and I hope you like it.
So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed throwing this little tractor together and getting it printed, and I hope you found the video to be helpful. I want to thank Paul for suggesting that we do this video. It's great to see a comment and see the comments and have a suggestion come in. I'm happy to try to do that if I can. So if you have a suggestion or you have a video that you'd like to see, go ahead and put that in the comments below. If you have any questions about this video or any comments about this video, go ahead and put those in the comments below as well. Go ahead and hit subscribe if you haven't done that already. Thanks for everything. Thanks for watching the videos. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking and making comments. I do appreciate all those things, and we'll see you next time.